Hi everyone, we're here with the Startups in 60 Seconds series. I'm here with the co-founder and CEO of KeyPup, Stephane Ibos. Please introduce yourself.
Okay, Kartik, thanks for having me. So my name is Stephane. I am the CEO co-founder of a startup called KeyPup, who is basically a virtual assistant for software developers. And we're based in France.
So let's go into a little bit of the history. How did you come to found the company?
KeyPup was an idea that I had with my co-founder, Arnaud Lachaume. We've been working together for the best part of 13 years, and we created our previous startup together. And whilst managing plenty of engineering, we discovered that software engineers are the poor parents of having, some sort of support or some sort of tools to help them actually streamline their work and help them manage better their priorities. So they've got plenty of productivity tools, but very little, if any, tool to actually help them make sense of everything they have to handle. So we set out to solve that.
And actually, just to rewind back, so you mentioned Arnaud Lachaume that you founded a previous company with. What is your history with him? So how far do you guys go back and how did you meet?
So we go back 13 years.
Wow.
We met at uni in France. Then we worked together in Australia because we moved in Australia for our end of internship studies. 7 years ago now, we created a startup called Maestrano, who was doing basically data integration for small and medium businesses and data aggregation. And we run that business for 6 years from Australia. We were fortunate enough to scale it globally, and we introduced it on AIM on the London Stock Exchange in May 18.
Very good. So successful exit. Brilliant.
We left the operations and we started this new business back in homeland in France.
The original business that you founded together was in Australia. Why did you guys come back to France? Is it a better business climate? What were the conditions there that made you want to come back?
Well, it was a fair mix of elements that all on their own wouldn't have sufficed. But there was a bit of, after 13 years of living as expats, we were a bit homesick, probably. Then personally, my better half in my couple always wanted to live in France. And the climate for innovation and for creating startups in France is particularly favorable at the moment. So we thought that all of that led to a good, change of scenery.
What about the remainder of the founding team? Did you have any people that you worked particularly closely with that you pulled from your previous venture, or was it open recruitment?
No, so we are two founders, the two of us for this venture, but typically there is a guy who was our engineering manager in our New York office in our previous business. He joined us pretty much from day dot, really. So he's, although not a co-founder per se, but he's certainly the number one employee and certainly someone very important to us and to the business. And for the rest, we've got not so much in terms of the previous team members, but we've got when we did our first seed round last year, we were very happy to see that the round was composed pretty much of 100% of Maestrano shareholders.
Oh wow, very good continuity.
Yeah, that's a neat vow of confidence, and at least they know how we work and they know what to expect with us. So the two stories, if not intertwined, are at least quite sequential.
The next thing I wanted to talk about is the specific problem that KeyPup is solving. So could you talk a little bit more about that, how you found a gap in the market, and why you think your solution is kind of more than adequate to plug that gap?
If I had to sum up KeyPup, I would say that it's a software development process automation tool. So basically, we looked at the way software engineers develop, and from here's an idea or here's a requirement, all the way down to here is the release of the function or the product or whatnot. And we looked at all the tools that they use and the way they operate and they interact. And what we saw very quickly was that there was a sort of overwhelming amount of information coming from various tools or apps that they use. So there's a notification from the code repository, there is notification from the project management tool, there's notification from the continuous improvement tool. And there are many stakeholders involved. And when you start gathering all of that, it's an immense pool of information. And it's very difficult to actually identify at a personal level for software engineer, what are my priorities, where am I standing, who's working on what with me. So that was really the initial core idea that then expanded naturally into a sort of automation of the engineering process. So how can we as a platform help engineers in a way where they do not need to manually perform certain tasks? So for instance, following up on peers for peer reviews, or identifying that a pull request is about to become stale because the branch has been unmerged for too long. If you have too much work as a software engineer, what are your quick wins? Where can you shoot rapidly to solve the largest number of issues? So all of that takes shape into our platform. And essentially, we see ourselves as the buddy of the developers. They still use the same tools, the same systems. We don't ask them to change anything, but we sort of that, nice little presence on their shoulder that we automate a lot of aspects and just make their life clearer and easier.
And by the way, how high level is this? So is this pitched at the lead software developer, the architect, the project manager, the program manager? Who's meant to actually be operating this and viewing the dashboard?
Definitely not project managers. It's a tool for engineers.
Right.
And the entry point, if you want, will tend to be either a tech lead or a senior engineer. So someone who is in a position to be a sort of reference from a tech point of view. So in smaller teams, it could be the engineering manager or the CTO of the company or whatnot. In larger team, it can be really a senior software engineer where all these peers sort of come to them, for help, for reference. They've got the merging rights and all that. So that's our entry point, because that's really where these professionals will see an immediate neat impact. But then what we see with our users is that once that person realizes the benefits of the platform, they actually tend to invite along their colleagues, so the software developers from all levels, because altogether it just works better. It's definitely a product for developers, but if we were to talk in terms of go-to-market, if you want, the tech lead or this sort of function is definitely our key to the entry door.
And just to understand the context of when your tool's deployed and the pain point that you're addressing. So all of the processes that your tool will be handling will actually be completely manual and possibly even guesswork or run by word of mouth currently in a team.
It's literally a tapping shoulder exercise. I mean, I would bet happily any of my salaries of the next 5 years that in most software development teams, when come crunch time, so, at the end of a sprint or whatnot, 2 or 3 days before, everybody's underwater because they've got to perform their own tasks, but they also have to peer review what their peers have done so that, in the end of the sprint, everything can be merged. And we've seen that in many organizations, small and large and whatever where engineers are down to physically running from one desk to another and tapping on each other's shoulders and say, hey, did you review my pull request? Because, it's on the critical path for the sprint. And that's absolutely not unusual. It's absolutely not something dysfunctional when it comes to the team or all the people inside the team. It's just a fact of life. This is where we thought if we could put a platform that sort of tap on the shoulder of others automatically, but smartly. So it's not interrupting. It's just smartly saying, hey, you've got that pull request review. It's quick. You've got a 5-minute job here. So it's just, if you want, helping all developers see what's coming up, anticipate, and telling them, okay, that's, what it will take you to do. Because we've been you're in London, so you know very much that Friday afternoon beer o'clock is sacred of all times.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more frustrating for an engineering team that when beer o'clock comes up, you're still half reviewing PRs and rushing into merging all of that. It is not rare. It's more the norm than the exception to the norm.
And in terms of the ROI, so how do I understand this? Is there an actual quantitative set of KPIs that you pitch when you're trying to secure a business as part of your go-to-market strategy? Or is this really something that the engineers would kind of implicitly understand and you really don't need to convince upper management because they do all the selling for you internally?
Well, from where we stand, because our beta is only 3 months old, but Thankfully, the engineers seem to not only understand the value prop, but quite like it, which is a good position to be in. But what we pitch is twofold. We pitch for the senior engineers or the tech leads to reclaim some of their own development time. Because the problem is that these people, they have that, whole organizational level and interruption and everything, but they still have to do their work as software engineers. So we pitch, reclaim that time as your own development time. And the second thing we pitch is certainly an improvement in quality, less abandoned PRs, less failed PR, less time between opening an issue to actually issue solved and published. So it's a mix of operational KPIs when it comes to quality, plus a mix of efficiency. And at this stage, we're still measuring all of that to be able to say, okay, this is as an average what it does, this is, but we certainly already see it. Yeah.
It spans everything from operational efficiency through to actual development philosophy. I mean, this is something that essentially needs to be there in order to aid quality control. Got it.
Looking at how our users operate and how they use the tool, we're developing right now a set of features specifically adapted to Agile and Scrum, because we see how they apprehend the tool and we see what the way they operate, and we thought, okay, we can go a bit further here, and especially with Agile Scrum, we can start automating the whole notion of stand-up meetings, the whole notion of sprint planning, the whole notion of backlog management. So the more the users use it, the more we see the actual KPIs that they draw from it, and the more we can go further in enhancing the movement. So.
And then moving on to commercials. So how far along are you in terms of commercializing the product? Are you still on your earliest users and you're still collecting data in order to refine the product, or is it in full blown, let's roll this out to as many firms as we can?
Well, so the company as a whole is 18 months old, right? So we are babies, but the beta version, so we ran an alpha version from end of 2019 to pretty much May 20. And that did help us, work better on the product market fit, right? The difference between a nice to have product versus a must have, very addictive product. We launched our beta version in early July. We're very happy to report that we've got a fair few hundreds of users on there. And we've got an active rate standing around 30%. If you know the metrics in the world we live in, that's pretty good metrics. So we hope to consolidate that. But certainly, given how the beta is shaping, we will just open up the whole platform and everything by the end of the year, because we feel that we're at the stage where it's about scaling up now. We spent 18 months validating the product, the market. So with these users, and we see what how they use the platform. So we're ready to move up.
And in terms of other aspects of progress that you've made since we last spoke, were there any kind of specific product deployments or any other commercial to customers that you've won to talk about?
Our products release plenty. From when we spoke, we released plenty of things. One of the products we really love and our users love is our data querying engine. So if you're familiar with the way developers currently query their code, they've got to resort to multiple APIs in multiple tabs of their browsers and run calls, and so we thought that was very complex, and we created a data querying engine that basically doesn't require any API. It's like a very simple command line type stuff, with filters. From there, we derive plenty of, from our engine, plenty of applied intelligence to start, getting into more forcing of the future. From last time we spoke with you, we've integrated with many more apps. So we've integrated with Trello, with ClickUp, with MS Teams. So, we start to get a nice offering that starts to be quite valid. From last time we spoke with you, we raised the second seed round. And it was great because we got the co-founders of PeopleDoc, the HR software, that joined us in the shareholding. So that was really cool. And then the clients we have at the moment are not, like enterprise yet. We will launch our enterprise offering by December 21. But at this stage, they're either individuals or smaller teams or startups. But a fair few hundred of them is really a feel good time in our life.
Yeah. What about hiring? Have you made any advancements there? Has the team size expanded?
Not really. We're still a very nice little team of 4 people. So 2 engineers, me for the sort of business and whatever the CEOs do, and a project manager for marketing who joined us in the midst of the COVID lockdown. But it's a very small team, and right now we started raising our Series A. So just last week we started the raise for 2.5 million euros. And one thing that's very funny is all the VCs who we spoke with and who follow us, when we tell them, oh, we're 4 in the company, and actually see a demo of the platform, and how we're tracking and where we're at, there is that sort of split second moment where it takes a bit of time to sink in.
Yeah, that's amazing. I guess that's the benefit of experience, right? Having run around the block, and also as coders coming into a DevOps environment, you know exactly what it is. You have the clear product vision in mind.
The benefit of well, in our case, second time around, is that I guess you got sufficient experience to cut the fluff. So where you going, which KPIs matter and where you need to focus 100% of your energy, and you got all the rest that is sort of white noise. You just get rid of it. So 4 people, ultra motivated, doing excellent work, easily produces, what you could compare to a team of 8-10 people sometimes. But that blank stare from, the VCs when this case it's worth a million. It's just...
And then what's the plan on spending all of that VC money? Have you got a clear idea of whether it's going to go into R&D and development or possibly even marketing at this stage?
So when we've closed the raise, it's going to take a good few weeks or a few months depending. The deployment will be threefold. One is to invest much more in the product development, because what we have appeals to the market from what we see, and it's good, but it's only a tiny wee fraction of our product roadmap and our strategic vision. So we'll essentially invest 3 times more in the coming year in product development alone. So more engineers and more tests. Then we'll actually start some proper marketing, because at the moment all the users, which is great, but all the users we get them on the back of spending 500 euros per month. So it's ridiculously low. So we'll increase that. So we'll multiply. We'll invest tenfold our budget in marketing, and the last part will be dedicated to a mix of community management, because in the software community, it's very important to build that sense, of community, of engagement, plus starting preparing for the launch of our enterprise product for end of 2021. We know by experience from the last startup what enterprise sales are. So, they're a bit long, they take time to eventuate, they require specific, customization and whatnot. So we'll prepare all of that with the view to gain 5 to 6, large clients that can experience and vouch for the product. And that would naturally lead us to a Series B. So now we're in 2022, but a Series B where you can say, okay, all the building blocks are in place. We've proven all the metrics, and now give us more so that, we can do more, right?
Let's talk about the technology. So I take it that there sounds like there's very little overlap between the previous core of your prior startup, so master data management versus a DevOps suite. What did you have to learn? What did you add to that to be able to come up with a DevOps platform?
Well, the good news is, although they're fundamentally different, if you look at the core of what we do, and that's our sort of trade with Arnaud, and that's what we like, it's all about sucking data and crunching them and making sense of them and injecting them back, right? So the philosophy in terms of how you architecture such a technology and which components are key and critical to ensure the integrity of your data and the security, and they're quite similar. So from an architectural standpoint, there wasn't much we need to learn, or it wasn't too big. In terms of technology, well, Arnaud is a fantastic CTO. So of course he wanted to go with all the technologies from tomorrow. Even the ones from today were not good enough. He went on to all the latest, API styles. So our APIs are GraphQL. Of course, he went with the latest of Node.js and Angular versions for the front. So if you look at our stack, it's like textbook exciting for software engineers because it's the latest. And not only that, but and Arnaud has always done that, but every, I would say, 7 weeks, they do a complete sort of refresh, like code refresh, technology refresh. So our tech debt is virtually zero, right?
Amazing.
Arnaud is really driving that by a mix of passion and really good business acumen, because we know that when you scale a company, if you start accumulating a tiny tech debt at our stage, then it can really cripple on you later on down the track. So, but if anyone wants to know more, you want to know more, you should talk to Arnaud. Is as you know, is much more qualified than I would even dare to say.
No problem. The next thing I wanted to ask about, kind of moving on from commercials or segueing really, is the business model. So how are you guys actually billing? I presume the current go-to-market strategy has very much been team by team. So someone hears about it at a coffee shop, that, hey, I'm using this great tool, why don't you guys check it out? And then suddenly you get some organic leads in. So it's kind of moving into the organization from the bottom up. How are you capturing that? Because you're not at the level at which you can get that enterprise license to trickle downward?
Yeah, so it's a good question. We've been very clear from the from day dot that the first 24 months of the platform will be free. Very honestly, we don't bother at the moment with monetization or with selling. We bother with ensuring that the product is the best it can be, that it hits the nail on the head, that developers love it so much that they wouldn't be able to consider starting new developments or not developing without KeyPup in their toolbox. So that is the main KPI. We will start monetizing by January 2022. And that again will be twofold. On the what we call the direct offering, so the current offering, we're probably going to head down the path of a freemium version where the platform will always be free. But we will roll out more and more features that are a bit more advanced, that help automate a bit more, that go a bit deeper. And this feature will probably be paying features because you, strictly speaking, won't need them to use KeyPup. But if you really love the product and you want to go the step above, then we'll say, okay, help us help you. So that's the freemium model. And then on the enterprise model, that's going to be a much more sort of standard business model. So probably, a license per seat. You're an engineering organization, you've got 200 engineers, X, dollars per month per engineer, give you the product. But we've got very understanding shareholders. They do understand the business to developers market, and they do understand that this is a market where first you prove yourself and your worth in terms of the tool. And then if you've done that, monetizing is not complicated. You can virtually make money out of thin air, right? So long as people love really what they consume.
So you are kind of plugging that perfect gap that's developed between all of the project management tools and some of the bottom-up tools that people are using for code depositories and things, and to run their development environment on a day-to-day basis. Is there anything else exciting coming up on the horizon where you could plan a strategic collaboration or possibly even compete against in the near future?
So compete against could be. I mean, if there is copycat, and there will be, and that'd be a good thing. At the moment, we're really the sort of black matter, that spreads in between systems and tools, right?
Yeah.
So we wish no harm to anybody. We don't want people to ditch a specific tool or app to start using KeyPup. It's really, we're an add-on, but we're a smart add-on. So there is no direct competition, and we do not ambition right now to go into competing against anyone. Now, let's be honest, we're entrepreneurs, so we want to, eat the world one bite at a time. There might be in our future vision areas where we feel we're adjacent with some existing players. And depending on how we shape, our business and what's going on, we might start to get a little bit more annoying to potential competitors. Yeah. But that's not our main target. It's not the horizon. When it comes to collaboration, probably definitely. When you look at our mission statement, which is really streamline the work for the software developers, there are plenty of opportunities to collaborate. We could go deeper with the code repository providers into embedding better the experience. We could go deeper with the project management tools into sharing some AI capacities. So there are thousands of opportunities, honestly, of collaboration. We as with Arnaud, we're very collaborative in business, so we would always be totally open to any possibility, because in the end, the more our tool will be embedded in that suite of systems and tools, the better experience it will provide to the end user. And that's what we're looking for.
And in terms of the final question I had, I'd love to know about any interesting anecdotes that you can tell us, either challenges that you might have overcome, problems that arose in the early part of development, or possibly even in scaling the business, or maybe even something funny.
I guess now the first time that was really, really, really bizarre was the first time we put an alpha user on the alpha platform. So I was back, almost 8-9 months ago now. And we were, as you are, always happy with yourself because you think, okay, there we go. We read the system, the tool. And at the time we were sitting down with them, right? Because you want the direct feeling, but we weren't saying anything. So we put them on the platform, connect their tools, and we're very happy because everything is happening as it should as far as we're concerned. And we see that guy, he goes around and he clicks here, clicks there, and we're thinking, yep, he's getting it. And after like 5 minutes, he looks at us, and that was heartbreaking. He tells us, okay guys, looks really nice, but what's the point of all of that really? And that shattered us. Like, honestly, that shattered us. I said, hold on, don't you understand it? Like, I said, well, and that was very helpful, right? Because it was totally candid. Yeah. And once we then explained what we were trying to show and to surface, the guy understood and said, okay. And then he gave us a 2-hour, feedback on, okay, guys, but not like this, like that, and that was really pivotal. So that was, in the end, and in hindsight, a great moment, right? Yeah. But the first 5 minutes, oh my God. that was as bad as it gets. Yeah.
Stephane, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Great to catch up with you, and hope to keep in touch in the future.
Thank you.